I'm 5'7" and I've managed to test a 41.5-inch vertical and dunk consistently, but it wasn't always this easy. I didn't have the craziest genetics and I wasn't a great athlete growing up. I was just a short, average athlete who was decently fast. I started my jump training journey in 2020 when I jumped this high, around 26 inches. Wasn't even close to touching the rim. Fast forward to now, this is how I'm jumping. So I'm gonna tell you a few key things that you need to know as a shorter athlete that's trying to dunk or trying to jump higher. And when I'm talking about short, I'm talking about 5'10" and under. In most sports, there's an advantage with being taller. We don't have the privilege that taller athletes have, so we gotta make up for it in other areas. One of the best ways is improving our vertical. If you're taller than 5'10" and you're watching this can also apply to you and help you jump higher as well. So here are 5 things to know. Number 1, first of all, get over the psychological barrier. Yes, it is possible. I don't care if you're 5'5" because I've seen and coached athletes who are 5'5" to jump higher and dunk. The biggest block for shorter athletes isn't always physical. A lot of the time it's mental. It's easy to look at taller players and think of dunking as impossible, but you gotta get rid of that mindset and stop feeling sorry for yourself. I didn't waste time being jealous of other athletes. Instead, what I did is looked at crazy athletes who are around my size, not with jealousy, but rather I used them as proof that it's possible for somebody my height to get to that level. Guys like Dominic Gonzalez, 5'8" Filipino guy, jumping 47 inches and dunking easily. Also looked at Tony Crosby, 5'6" athlete, jumping 50 inches. Sure, they had crazy genetics. Sure, they were always jumping high. Yes, they started dunking in their teens and started training earlier. But instead of being jealous and saying, I wish I had their genes, I wish I had that, I said, if they could do windmills and East Bays and jump 45 plus inches at 5'6" and 5'8", me being 5'7", I should at least be able to reach a 40-inch vertical and do a regular one-handed dunk. That mentality is what shifted things for me because I ended up achieving those things. Nowhere near the level of these athletes out there, but I ended up achieving my goals. So as long as you have a working body, you genuinely want this, and you have the patience and discipline to train for years, then you can 100% jump higher and dunk no matter what height you are. Number 2, getting stronger. As a shorter athlete, you gotta make up for the gap in height with insane strength. And that's exactly what I've been training for 5 years and what I will continuously train for. Believe it or not, strength training is actually an area where shorter athletes like us have a natural advantage. The reason is because we have shorter limbs. And when you have shorter limbs, the lever arms are shorter, meaning we experience less torque when we're lifting weights. What is torque? That's basically the rotational force that causes an object to rotate along an axis. So as a shorter athlete and you have shorter limbs, the external torque placed on the joints isn't as high as it would be for a taller athlete with really long legs. If you take a look at the screen, you can see me at the bottom of a squat. The line of force is just the path gravity pulls the weight. So that's just directly downwards, represented by the dotted line. The moment arm of my quad is from my knee joint to the dotted line. There is also a glute moment arm, but let's focus on the quad right now. Here's me comparing myself to one of my athletes who is 6'2". Let's say that both of us are lifting 225 pounds. You can see that the moment arm of his quad is a little longer. This means that his quads are experiencing more external torque, meaning that his quads have to overcome more force as opposed to me. Another thing to note is that with the taller athlete, the bar path is a lot longer. But looking at me squat, you can see that the bar path is shorter, making it easier for me to squat 225 than him. And that makes it easier for us, shorter athletes with shorter limbs, to get stronger faster. And of course, when you're stronger, that means that you can put more force into the ground, which directly correlates into jumping higher. So I can push the same amount of weight as the taller athlete with less work being placed on my quads. So to put it simply, longer limbs usually means longer moment arms, which places your joints under more external torque, meaning that you have to produce more internal torque with your muscles to overcome that. And that's probably why you see shorter guys outlift bigger guys most of the time. But the catch is we need more strength than taller athletes to see the same carryover into jumping higher. That means you can't just be strong for your size. You gotta be strong, period. So if you're a shorter athlete like me and you want a clear roadmap into getting stronger and jumping higher, sign up for Get Up Vertical with a link in my description. Everything will be fully customized to you as an athlete so that you're able to make the fastest progress possible. So if you're serious about training and getting to that next level, sign up down below or hit me up. I only take 5 to 10 athletes per month so that I'm able to commit as much time as possible to each single athlete on Get Up. Number 3, get leaner and lighter. We also have the advantage to taller athletes in this regard. Naturally, we're going to be lighter than taller athletes just because we're shorter and smaller, unless you're overweight, of course. And obviously, when you're lighter, that's less weight that you have to propel off the ground to jump. Every pound matters when you're training to jump higher. However, just because you're overweight doesn't mean you should just cut blindly. What you want to do is cut meaningless weight, aka fat mass. Fat is non-contractile and contributes nothing to force production, meaning it's not going to help us jump higher. The goal is to continuously build muscle and decrease the amount of fat you have. The leaner you are and the more you increase your strength and RFD, the higher you're going to jump. Simple as that. Shorter athletes already weigh less. Don't throw that advantage away. Stay lean and stay strong. Number 4, master your technique. This applies to every single athlete, short or tall. doesn't matter. However, taller athletes can get away with sloppy form just because they've got that extra reach, and since they can dunk easily, their technique isn't prioritized as much because they don't see it as an issue. It's working. We don't have that luxury. We need to perfect as many things as we can as possible. Everything has to be dialed in, from your approach velocity to your penultimate step to lowering efficiently, etc. It took me years to figure out what jumping style works best for me, and in this area, basically the more reps, the better. There's no set of YouTube videos that's going to tell you what you should do, because you need to figure that out on your own. Go to the court, just try to touch the rim, do that as many times as you can while staying healthy, and over time the reps will accumulate, muscle memory will come into play, and eventually you're just going to get efficient with jumping just like that. So this also ties in with having an extensive history of jumping. If you're on the younger side, aka 17 and younger, start playing as many sports as you can, start having low rim sessions, start having dunk sessions, start jumping as much as you can. For the older guys, 20 years and older, you're going to need to be smarter with that approach. You don't have the ability to just play as much as you can and jump as much as you can, because you're going to hurt yourself. So as soon as you finish watching this video, start incorporating weekly jump sessions into your routine. Anywhere from 1 to 4 sessions per week, depending on your age and your fitness level. I currently jump once a week because that's all I can handle. And number 5, convert to 2-foot jumping. From my experience and from what I've seen, most elite jumpers that are 5'10 and under are 2-foot jumpers. I'm not knocking the few outliers who are great 1-foot jumpers and under 5'10, like Austin Burke. He's good at both 1-foot and 2-foot jumping, but it's very rare to see an elite 1-foot jumper that's 5'7 or 5'8, for example. Why is that though? Let me explain. Let's talk about levers and torque again. There's a reason why tall athletes dominate the sport of high jumping, which is a 1-foot jumping sport. So like I said earlier, with levers and taller athletes having long femurs, since they do have longer femurs and longer tibias, aka longer lever arms, we talked about how it's harder for them to lift in the weight room, to lift heavier weights, because there's more external torque placed on their quads, making things like squats harder for them as opposed to us. But in 1-foot jumping, those same long levers give them the advantage, because it kind of works like a whip. If we're talking about a whip, the longer the whip, the bigger the snap at the end. So for that taller athlete, during takeoff, since they're going through more external torque, that external torque allows them to stretch their tendons and muscles a lot more, meaning that they're able to store and release more elastic energy, allowing them to jump higher. We also got to consider that their tendons are also longer, meaning that they're able to store and release more elastic energy in general. Their Achilles and knee tendons are longer than ours, meaning that it's acting like a bigger rubber band, allowing for more recoil during takeoff. To put it simply, longer levers equals hard in the weight room, hard to squat because of more external torque. However, longer levers and longer tendons means more elastic energy stored and released during takeoff, resulting in a higher jump. 2-foot jumping is still relatively elastic, but it relies a lot more on your muscles as opposed to 1-foot jumping. It relies a lot on max force production. Since 2-foot jumping allows you to get into deeper knee and hip flexion, you're loading a lot more of your muscles. And if you're shorter, you should have more relative strength than a taller athlete, meaning you can make that your advantage during a 2-foot jump. No, I'm not saying 2-foot jumping is better. I'm also not saying 1-foot jumping is better. Some guys just thrive off of 1-foot jumping. And if you are the type of athlete, don't force yourself to jump off 2. Majority of the time though, 2-foot jumping is more ideal for athletes 5'10 and under. I was actually a 1-foot jumper and converted off 2 because I realized that I jump higher off 2. So there you go. But yeah, those are a few things you need to know if you're trying to jump higher as a shorter athlete, whether it's for volleyball or basketball or whatever sport you play. Regardless of all these things though, be willing to commit a lot of time to training, because these things don't come easy. It's very rare that you see a 40-inch vertical, let alone someone that's 5'10 and under with a 40+ inch vertical, let alone 5'10 and under dunking. There's a reason why that's rare, is because it takes a long time to develop. So take your time, be willing to go through the process, and if you do want to speed up the process as fast as possible, apply for Get Up and I got you. But yeah, that's all. Later.